right, everybody should be joining here. I see them saying hello, or I see them coming in. Please say hello. Let us know where you are watching from. We are here with Angela Montano. Angela, say hello so everybody can see your
Hello,
beautiful.
hello, hello. I'm so grateful to be here with you all.
Yay! Awesome. I see hands raised. You guys know the drill, hearts flying.
Yeah.
Um, we will be taking one-on-one callers, and we're diving into this topic of the prayer field. So I'm super excited to dive into this topic. It's very unique and different and great for our summer series. So Angela, I'm so happy and thrilled that you're here to share that with us today.
I'm so grateful to be here with you, Gretchen. I'm grateful to be with everyone. And the subject of the prayer field, it is an extraordinary topic to really dive into.
Yay, awesome. Welcome, everybody. So thrilled to have you here on this Monday. Angela, it's been a long time since you've been on the show, right?
Yes, yes.
So,
Years.
yeah, that's awesome. So I was so excited to connect with you because when you were on before, you and I weren't connected. So
Mhm.
I'm excited for this, guys. And a lot of you might not know Angela, so I'm very anxious to introduce her to you as we talk about the prayer field today. Angela Montano has spent nearly
Yes.
3 decades championing a reevaluation of prayer, viewing it not solely through the lens of religion, but as a universal language of love. With over 25,000 individual prayer sessions under her belt, Angela serves as both a prayer intuitive and advocate, spreading her innovative perspective through classes, speeches, and workshops. Her journey began in journalism, where she sensed a deep human narrative beyond the news story she covered. Seeking spiritual understanding, Angela immersed herself in Los Angeles' spiritual scene, eventually finding her path as a licensed spiritual practitioner under Dr. Reverend Michael Beckwith. Since 1994, she has worked with people of diverse faiths worldwide. Angela's influence extends through her keynote speeches, workshops, and her podcast, The Angela Montano Hour Prayer on the Air, reaching listeners in over 32 countries. Her best-selling course, 21 Days of Prayer to Change Your Life, boasts 29,000 global students, further cementing her impact as a leading voice in reimagining the power of prayer. So, Angela, officially welcome to the call.
Thank you so much.
So I think I'd like to start with your story because it sounds very fascinating to me, going from journalism into prayer and spirituality, and kind of uh, how did you take that leap? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I graduated from college with a journalism degree with an emphasis in broadcast news, went straight to being an on air news reporter. And that was a really interesting experience because, I'm working, easily every day was about 14 hours.
Wow.
And I'm going where, we would call the quote unquote action is, meaning I'm seeing really all kinds of very, very traumatic things, be it, you know, car accidents. We often were on the scene before even the police arrived with certain things because we followed the police scanner, radio, and, all kinds of political stories, human interest stories. And with all of this quote unquote action, all of this racing to the scene to get there, get the cameraman set up, say something about it, I sensed something deeper going on. And I was captivated by this deep presence. And it was still, it was open, it was loving, it was unmovable, it was calm through like total chaos and
Mm.
devastation. And I just got so like, what is this that is sustaining no matter what is happening? What is this? And how does one tune into it? How does one drop into this awareness? Because on the scene, that's not where we were. That's not what we were reporting about. That deep, invisible, I would call it love, you know, it's beyond anything I know how to name. So I think from that, it just kept calling my attention in a way. And so that's why at that time I started reading things like the Bhagavad Gita. I went to a Buddhist meditation class in my, one day off. I did things like that. And it eventually led me on a journey. At the same time, I was just in my 20s, early 20s, mid
Wow.
20s, and not even in my late 20s. And then something very painful started to occur to me where I kept getting this thing like, you're reporting on all these other people's stories. And I mean, just incredible things people were achieving and doing. And, by the time you make the news, people have got quite a backstory with it. And I kept hearing this question like, what about your story? What about living your story? Are you only going to report on other people's story? Why don't you take your journey? Why don't you take your risks? Why don't you take your chance? Why don't you move where this inner energy is moving you? And I resisted it. My mother loved her daughter being a TV news reporter. She loved it. And where our family or people in my community would go to the beach, it was Florence, Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, that area. And, when my mother's friends would go to the beach, like, oh, did you see Angie on TV? And it was, like, so hard for me not to do it because my mother loved it. We grew up watching the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and that's, the character's a female journalist, and so I was kind of living that out,
Yeah.
and it just oh, how I loved pleasing my mother, but to cut off from that and let go was
Mm.
big. So, what at the time I thought I had no idea, like, I'd be a spiritual counselor, like, I didn't even have that vocabulary. But I thought maybe if I was an actress, I would be able to express the deeper spiritual cravings of humanity. I thought the emotional body and expressing these emotions would be more closer to that immovable, sustaining presence. And I
Mm.
loved movies. I loved going to movies. And I loved how actors would share private moments in public. And I thought, oh, I want to do that. And I cried a lot and I laughed a lot. And I thought, maybe I can make other people cry and laugh. And so went in my 64 Plymouth Valiant, a very old car back then, even in the 1990s, to California
Wow.
with my cat. And boy, I was not ready for the big city of LA. And what it takes to make it in this field of acting was very, very different. But I went to class, I studied, I loved, I loved the psychology of acting. I loved the character study of it, but something wasn't right. It wasn't quite right for me. And so I ended up, all my money had run out by then that I'd saved. I went to work as a waitress. I felt very ashamed, and my mother was now not speaking to me
Oh, no.
because I was really disappointing, from her point of view, the family. Like education was important, status of some kind was important. And now, I'm doing what you could do without even a college education. And
Mm.
that was agonizing for me to be a disappointment.
Mhm.
But there was a hostess at this restaurant where I worked, and I was acting, going on auditions in the day and acting classes at night. And she talked about the spiritual center, the Agape International Spiritual Center. And I had read a book called The Science of Mind, and I had begun my metaphysical journey in my quest to make this big transition. Anyway, long story that I'm sure I'm making long, but I make it there. And then I really began my path, and I realized I was in Los Angeles not to be an actor, but to investigate directly this
Mm,
invisible love that not only is, but that you are, that I am, that we are. We can call it God, we can call it reality, we can call it true nature. And when we drop into this love that we are, there's who we are, there's what we are, there's whose we are, and then there's who we take ourselves to be. Most of us are living from who we take ourselves to be.
mm,
So my journey has been guiding people and myself on a tremendous let go, letting go of the self we've imagined our life to be, ourselves to be, separate and apart from reality, God, that stunningly is actually created out of fear. My ego, my separate self, I think she's so clever. And, it's all my coping mechanisms, my survival mechanisms. It seems like it'd be crazy not to live from that. But you go down and down and down and you look, those survival and coping mechanisms, were born out of some sense of lack. So we formed a coping mechanism. So it's a lot of unhooking from an old way of being into a grace and a mercy that is here for all of us. And it's my job, your job, our job to relax into it.
mm. I love that. What a story.
Mm,
Incredible story. So, picking up into that and stepping into prayer, a lot of us, myself, grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school, taught all the prayers. And so, I've stepped away from it until recently, but what are we doing wrong, I think, when it comes to prayer? Like I know, you recite the Lord's Prayer and you don't really pay attention, I guess, to the words. You just recite it, right?
right. Yes. So many of my clients are, uh, you know, uh, people who do grow up in some kind of religion, and they say exactly what you say to me, which is, I felt no aliveness in prayer, a
Mhm.
living connection. And nobody taught me how to pray. So I think what we're doing I mean, I don't like to say we're doing it wrong, but what we're getting wrong, what we're doing wrong, if I'm going to be so like, well, I'll just say it, is that we come from in prayer the belief in two powers. There's God and there's me, and that is erroneous. So
Mm,
we're trying to get this power outside of us to do something for me, and there's God and me. And in reality, in truth, in the mysticism, for example, back of Catholicism, if you read the writings of the saints, it's always about there's only one power. Only love is real. All the fear, all the appearance of something other than love occurring is false.
wow.
And that's very radical thinking, right? Because we grow up thinking there's a good guy, a bad guy, a
Yeah,
right way to be, a wrong way to be. There's a way we should be, a way we shouldn't be. There's certainly a better life and a worse life. And we've got it all ranked in our
yeah.
mind. But the 12th century mystic Rumi said, beyond right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I will meet you there.
Mm,
And that to me is an invitation into the prayer field. But it's very difficult. I really empathize. I struggle with this myself. Um, to not believe like something really terrible isn't happening. Like we interpret certain events as, you know, utter devastation, utter tragedy. And because of what we're thinking and believing about what happens, we have all this cortisol that runs through our body, all the stress hormones, and then we're in hell.
mhm.
But it's amazing when you drop into the prayer field, you really move into a good or bad, I don't know. And just think about yourself, maybe your friend, something they thought was really terrible happened. Years later, they realize it was really good.
Yeah, right.
That divorce, getting fired, even
Yeah.
a health crisis. So good or bad, I don't know. Good or bad, I don't know. When we're in prayer, we're making friends with. We want to rush as fast as we can, as deeply as we can go into the I don't know mind. I don't know. I don't know. Because when we're in there, I don't know mind, we're so much more available to the infusion of the grace and the mercy.
Mm.
And the shift in our perception happens. And it's stunning.
So
But
the I don't know mind, is that kind of like the place of neutrality? Like you're just kind of
it's a place of wonder.
uh,
How good is this? How good could this be? How might I be perceiving this from a very limited point of view? What greater and more is going on? How do I attune to the miracle in this, even though I want to spit it out?
yeah.
I'm so mad. I'm so angry. I'm so sad. But we are in Earth School. We are in Earth School. And some of the things that have occurred in my life, perhaps in your life, they haven't felt good. And it's because it's bringing up something for me that's ready for healing, that's
Uh,
ready for help. So I've had things in my life that I felt very ashamed about, just ashamed. I don't want anybody to know. So I have karma with shame, not being good enough, not feeling I'm enough. So something happens to allow that repressed, erroneous identity to come forward.
mm,
I want to hide. I want to push it away. I want to go anywhere but this. But when I soften into it, let the tears flow, I'm letting it pass. I'm letting it pass. When I say it pass, the false identity pass, I'm letting the fear processed. And then I can look at what is and then really ask, how is this a miracle? And what is the next right step
mm,
into this grace, into this mercy? So I think it really is, we are in the world, but not of the world. When I feel ashamed, I'm of the world. Like I'm wanting to rank in the world and I'm of the world. But when you realize the power of prayer and this majestic journey we're all on, we don't judge in the old ways we used to judge.
mm.
We don't take for granted, okay, this is a good life, this is a bad life. This is the right life, this is the wrong life. We're much, much, much more open for the fun of it all.
Love it. So I think my next question is, and I would love for you guys to ask questions too, because this is a really fascinating topic. But I've been running the show now for a couple months, and a lot of our audience is really stuck in the same stuff, like a lot of shit, right? Like a lot of stuff going on. And so how do you navigate all of that? Like if you've been feeling that way and things have been like that for a really long time,
Right.
into the prayer field, into that place of, curiosity and what's possible and all of that.
So, the number one thing that can really unstick you is to take full responsibility for your experience. Like you are, I am, we are liable for our own experience. So when I'm not awake to that, I really, really believe that what is causing my doubt, my fear, my poverty, my sense of lack, my devastation, my agony, my anguish, I really, really believe it's what's happening. The child that's an addict that's out on the street, I don't know where they're at, or I do know where they're at and they're in jail, or the money I invested in what I thought was a bridge loan for a construction of new housing turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. Or, I had my chin up and I did everything right when I had cancer. And then I thought it was all done. And then there was a recurrence. I really believe, I had a business partner and that business partner was embezzling money and what I thought was in retirement fund isn't. Like we most of us really hook, line, and sinker. We go down with the events are causing my pain and my suffering, my anguish, my stuckness. To enter into the prayer field, which is a mature prayer, it's spiritual prayer. When I say spiritual prayer, I mean it's beyond religious constructs. Religion has contributed greatly to prayer, but prayer existed, excuse me, before the first religion was ever formed. So, what we have to awaken to and deeply accept is that the cause of our suffering is what we're thinking and believing about what's going on.
Mm.
It's not what's going on. And most of us could care less. Like, excuse me, meaning most of us think, I don't care what I'm thinking and believing. Look at what's happening. Look at what's happening. I want to feel good about this. I hate this. I don't want to feel good about this. But when you move into, well, what if what has no power over me? Or how I'm perceiving what is just a perception.
Mm.
And when you then enter into prayer to shift your perception of what is, an energy loosens up in us. And we really enter into all things are possible. And
Mm.
when you have your peace and your causeless joy flowing, guess what occurs? We're patient, we're rational, and we take action to respond to life, right? When we're so stuck in our thinking, our stressful thinking, and all that emotion that goes with that, we're usually pretty ineffective
Yeah,
in
for sure.
in making choices.
Yeah, 100%.
So I say all prayer really requires letting go. And when I share my story, I started with my TV news reporting, but I was really interested in prayer even as a teenager.
Huh.
And I did these prayers back then, very bargaining. And I wanted to be a famous singer like Linda Ronstadt. And I said to God, look, you give me a voice. Let me wake up with that voice or a voice like that or as good as that in the morning. And I will do like religious songs, gospel songs for the first 5 years of my career. And then after that, I'd like to sing what I want. And I'd go to sleep. I'd wake up, la, 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 la. No, no change. The bargaining prayers didn't work. I was always, I'll do this, you do that. Got it? And so that was very two powers, right?
Yeah.
See if I could make a deal.
Yeah.
Well, I think I was 17 and my dad worked at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. And one summer we got privileges to go to this swimming pool where all the military families got to swim. And my dad was a civilian, so I don't know. They gave it to him as a perk. So, oh my God, we're going to have this fabulous swimming pool to go to in the summer. And there was a boy there who was a lifeguard. And I mean, even now, I think of him. He had these locks of dark curls, these shimmering green eyes. He looked like a Spanish prince, this young man. I developed the biggest crush ever. And to my utter amazement, he ended up during the summer, chatting it up with me a bit and this and that. And then he asked me out on a date and we dated for, a couple months of that summer. And it was a thrill. I felt like I was with, I don't know, like Elvis Presley when Elvis Presley was famous. Like I just, anyway. So, but he was older than me and he was going back to college. So he went back to college and he wrote me a letter. And I was like, oh. And then I wrote him a letter back. He didn't write me back again. So I wait and I wait. I write a letter back again. No letter back. Back then, after 11 p.m., it was cheaper to call long distance. I
Right.
had to go to bed because of school. Like, I don't know. I was going to bed at like 9:30. And, I'd say to my mother before I would go to bed, like, if Phil calls, wake me up, wake me up, like maybe he'll wait till the rates are cheaper, wake me up if he calls. Then,
Oh,
and then I'd go to bed with like hope, maybe he'll call. And then I'd wake up in the morning all sad. But then
right.
I'd kind of get the optimism going. I thought, well, maybe when I come home from school, there'll be a letter in the mailbox. And I'd come home and there was no letter. I went on, really obsessive and, that teenage agony.
Oh, yes.
So Christmas came and my mother said, just call his home. Just call him. She was like this. And I called him. And it was just clear in the call. He was like way, 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 way over me. So I was like, it's done. This is over. So I went into my bedroom and I wrote what I considered to be a prayer. But it was like a prayer poem. Sometimes when you write poems, even you don't have to be a poet to do this, but it helps. And I wrote this prayer where I put my love for him in a bubble and I gave it to God. And for me, it was like the cosmos is God. And I put this bubble up, 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 out into the universe. I just sent it out through, and a lot of prayer is very much visualization. I sent it up and out, 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 and I let it go.
Mm,
And within a day, I was like back to being me. I was just back in my life. I released it.
mm. And that had been months.
And I had been crazy for a long time, 6 months or so by the time I did this. And in the poem, in order to let go, I wrote, you know, he will come back to me. And I remember I said something like 10 years, like if it's meant to be. I didn't like, he's gonna come back to me, but like if it's meant to be, he will return. Like that's the only way I could let go is with some caveat that
Right.
like I would be Mrs. Phil Marquez one day, right? But I let go. I let go. And I just want to just say we have so much more capacity to let go than we realize. That if we think of Christian mysticism, that first phrase, it's on the first page of the Bible, let there be light. Let,
Mm,
let, let. I think it may be one of the most powerful words in the English language. Let there be light. It's not do light, make light, achieve light, get light, find light, qualify yourself, be good enough for the light. It's let go, let. That is the portal through which miracles occur, letting. But so many of us, when did we learn? We learned love had to be earned. I never thought I could let myself be loved, let go. I have to be good enough for the love, good enough. So somehow I stumbled upon that even when I was a teenager. And the funny thing is, when I was TV news reporting, I got a call one day. It said, like, hello, may I speak to Angela? And I said, hello, Phil. I recognized his voice like that.
that's
I
so
said, this is Phil Marquez. Yes. He told me this story. He goes, because his parents lived far away from where I lived. The pool was kind of in between. He goes, I came home to visit my parents. So we're both like, it's like 8 or 9 years later.
Mhm.
He goes, I came home to visit my parents and I kept thinking about this girl that summer that I dated. And he goes, I remembered your first name. I could not remember your last name. He goes, I end up getting in my car and going driving. And I kind of find my way into where you lived. And I finally found your street and I got your last name off your mailbox because I remembered the house. Because then I went to that country store in your town and I went to the mailbox and I mean to the telephone, back when we had telephones and telephone books out everywhere. And he goes, I looked up your parents' number and I called them and they gave me your number. Then he came to visit me. And I was no longer in love with him. His curls, those locks, I think, had done it for me. He'd cut his hair very short, and it was over. But it was so beautiful, and, we had a good time, and, we actually did write back and forth as friends after that, and,
Oh,
eventually lost touch again, but that was probably my stumbling into the real power of prayer. It doesn't happen without letting go. Damn
yeah.
it. Damn it.
Because it is the hardest
It's the hardest thing to
because we like
turn it over.
that, right? Like we like to say, hold on to whatever it is that's making us mad, whatever it is. Like it's the hardest thing.
Yeah. And I use all the words I can use to describe this, to point to this portal, but really it's even beyond words. You
Mm,
know, this letting go that I speak of, to let God or to let your true nature, to
mm,
let what is arise. And, I love a spiritual teacher, Adyashanti's definition of faith. And he says, faith is the withholding of a conclusion. So you let what is arise.
mm,
And so, see, as long as we're really mentally fixed about what the problem is, who caused the problem, how it needs to go, what I want it to be like, as long as we're there, we're concluding. And that's what ego does: conclude, 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 judge, judge, judge. This is a good day. This is a bad day, you know? But when you can withhold concluding, feel into your body, everything you feel related to what's occurring in your life, and then be interested in letting what is emerge. What is emerge? This is the mysticism, this immovable stillness emerge. I also like another way of describing it. I've heard when you think of like going to the movies.
mhm,
And when we go to the movies, we watch what's on the screen, right? We're scared or ha 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 ha, we're laughing, we're watching on the screen. We never think to watch the screen. Like, if there's no movie on the screen, there's nothing on the TV, why would you watch the screen? But if you think of the screen as like pure, unconditional love, a pure stillness, it stays the same whether it's a horror film or a comedy or a drama or an adventure film.
mm,
Uh, Who wants to tear away from the movie? We want to get the outcome we want for this movie. So it seems so it's definitely counterculture to go, you know what? I'm just going to let go of the movie and rest with the screen.
mm,
And then the movie has a way of changing. But it's a pretty radical choice. Now, what makes me choose it? What makes you choose it? What makes any of you listening, watching choose it? For most of us, it's pain. It becomes so unbearable to watch the movie anymore. You mentioned Reverend Michael Beckwith, one of my teachers. I loved what he said. He said, pain pushes until the vision pulls.
mm,
Pain pushes until the vision pulls. But it does feel kind of like a death. If I go, okay, I'm just going to drop into the unmovable love that is and let it do me, let it inspire me, let it inform me. It's kind of like, it feels like a death in a way of the individual self as I've imagined myself to be. But prayer is extraordinary. It's terribly misunderstood. People think it's a product of religion. Well, I've left my religion, so I've left prayer. But when you think about extraordinary people like Gandhi, for example, who achieved so much as a humanitarian in his life, he said prayer from the heart. That's another very important thing, sincerity. We have to have sincerity for effective prayer. Prayer from the heart can achieve what nothing else in the world can.
mm,
The artist Henry Matisse, the impressionistic painter, he said, I do not know if I believe in God or not, but I do believe the most essential thing is to live life as close to prayer as possible.
Hmm.
Prayerfulness, the philanthropist, what's his name? S. Clement Stone, um, a billionaire before it was, we now have more billionaires, but he said prayer is the greatest gift we have. Like there are people who have awakened to prayer in their bones. It's it's within us. And what a difference it makes. I don't know how I would live without prayer because I am captivated by a sense of separation. I do have an orientation toward fear. I do know what it is like to be terrified. And if I couldn't shift and drop back into the love that is and trust that love to have its way with whatever's disturbing me, I'd be God only knows where.
Mm. Mm. A couple questions here. So Linda said, I just had sadness come up when I let go. Is that what I'm holding or working so hard to cover up? Good question.
Yeah. So Linda, bless you. I mean, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And and I would say the sadness is likely a repressed emotion that does need to flow. And this too shall pass. Sadness is not a permanent state. But could you love the sadness as it arises? Think of it as a lost child that needs some attention. We don't turn away from a child that's sad. Get away from me, right? We take that child
Mm.
in our arms and go, now, now, now. And just listen to those words, Linda. Now, now, now. Now, now, now. Like right now, Linda, are you okay? Like right now, wherever you're sitting or lying down, maybe you're listening as you're walking, just right now, are you okay? Am I okay? Are you okay, Gretchen? Right now. The answer is almost always yes, if not always yes, if you look deeply. It's the stories we run, the past, the future, the past, the future, the past, the future, and we call this life. This is just our interpretation of life. Life is right now. Your question, my answer, however you're taking it in right now.
Mhm.
For me right now, I'm supported. This chair that I'm sitting on is supporting me. The technology through which our divine right communication is happening is supporting me. There's so much support, but not in my thinking, not in my past future. Well, if there was support, this thing would have never happened. And I don't know how to fix it for the future. That's that loop where we loop in and loop in and loop in and loop in on ourselves. So when you say, Gretchen, so many of our listeners are stuck, we're actually not stuck. We're moving like this. We're looping, but we're looping in place. So it feels like we're not going anywhere. So when we pray, we, rather than looping, we just enter into, it really is a void. But the void is a place of fertility. We think of the void as like, got to have the radio on, got to have something going on. I can't be alone because if I'm alone, I'm going to feel all the terror and the worry. I got to keep my mind occupied. But the void, the nothingness, is a friendly place. And I think of it as a womb. Like when we know a little baby is safe in a mother's womb, getting the nutrients that little baby needs, we're good. We're glad, right? We don't want a baby to come out of that womb too early, right?
Mm.
It's like the void is like a womb. And it's like if you could be still, and I say this to you specifically, Linda, as that sadness is happening, if you can be still in the void and not go to one of your coping mechanisms, just even for 2 seconds. You don't have to take them away forever, but just be there. That's when fertility happens. That's when the fertility of miracles starts to unfold. we've got to turn ourselves over to the higher power, to true nature, for it to have its to have its way with us. So this is a lot of trust and faith to move into this, way of being.
Mm. Uh, so I want to read her follow-up. It's about her son, who is what I think is not okay living on the streets. And so she says, thank goodness and thank you. So she resonated with what you said. But I want to bring this up because a lot of people might have situations like this, like, especially as a mother, right? So,
Yes. So, the first thing I want to say, Linda, is your son is whole and your son is perfect and your son is complete. And he is made in the image and in the likeness and out of love itself. So that's the first place we ground. God is, your son is. Where he is, God is. Where he is, this immovable grace, this immovable mercy is. So that's our first space we want to see if we can enter that. Number two, and I know this is a big ask, but I've had other clients do it and it's been miraculous, is I know our thinking and everything in our culture and society tells us it is better not to have a period of one's life where one is homeless or houseless on the street, but we do not know that's true. Camping is a vacation. We go camping. Oh, that's okay because we have a house to go back to. We do not know that people living uh, out in the open under the stars is not as legitimate as housed. We don't know what's vibrant and alive in that setting that may not be vibrant and alive in a home. I'm not trying to say one is better than the other, but I'm asking us not to rank life experience. This is the unhoused. This is the house. Oh, this is the house in a nice neighborhood. Oh, this is the house in a super great neighborhood. Well, they're housed and they go on vacation and they live in other houses and on and on. We rank this and we believe into this. We believe into this appearance. But I can tell you, I have worked with people who have multiple houses and vacations who live in hell and are trying to get out of hell. It is not what it appears to be. We think, well, this would be the worst life and this would be the better life. And we all know examples in history of people who have had it all and could not find the light within. And then we look at someone like Mother Teresa, who wore a $1 sarong and devoted her life to helping others and, had a very different life. Like, this is what I'm talking about, Gretchen and Linda and all you've listening, when I talk about the I don't know mind. Like, I don't know what the better place to be is. I
mm,
don't know. I can't say that for
very good.
anybody else. So we want to be open minded. Do you see how I'm seeking, Linda, to open your mind about the state your son is? He might be laughing right now. He might be eating a warm bowl of oatmeal right now. He might be having an insight into his true nature right now. Anything is possible. My teacher, again, Reverend Michael, from those years ago, I remember he talked about one day he'd had a dream and it class with him happened to be the next day. And he said, I had this dream that people who, and he called them homeless at the time. Now I think the phrase is unhoused. But he goes, I saw them as these holy men and women who came and they had the quality of being like a sponge and they were willing to take in negative energy on the planet to requalify that energy for the upleveling of humanity. So if any of you've ever cleaned anything with a sponge, it gets dirty, right? But we don't judge that sponge as, oh, bad sponge. We go, wonderful, it's absorbing. And then we
Use it out.
rinse it out. Like who knows what your son's purpose is? But that's not what I want. That's not what you want in your daughter. I want a child that reflects my egoic ideals of ranking. Oh, let me humble brag about what my child did. That's what I want. I want something that reflects, oh, I was a good mother. Well, if, but I don't think we have any control that people think we have as parents. I think that is not true. I think we give birth to the children that are our spiritual teachers, and they are teaching us what we have to learn. And I really deeply believe that. And that is a Native American spiritual precept that our job as parents is basically to keep the child clothed and housed and fed and whatever we are to do, and just this is a fork and this is a knife, kind of this is the way of planet Earth. And then they in return are our spiritual teachers, and they trigger in us the places that we are bound to ego.
Hmm. I like that.
Edging God out, edging God out. If we were an awakened world, Linda, and people said, "Where's your son?" And you say, "I don't know. He's living on the street somewhere." If we were an awakened world, they'd say, "Wow, what a brave spiritual warrior you are. And how far out is your son? He must have an amazing holy purpose."
Hmm.
You're living on the edge. And when I say on the edge, the edge is the only place anything interesting is happening, right? Like the edges of consciousness expanding outward, right? I
Hmm.
want to be in where I'm comfortable and where everyone would say, wah, 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 I did good. I want validation from the other egos. Who wants to grow spiritually when we could, you know, puff ourselves up a bit? And I know that may not be fair to say entirely. You may just say, well, I just want to know my son is okay. I don't think we ever really get to know who's okay and who's not. I met someone recently and her daughter's a lawyer. That sounds like really accomplished to me. And she's worrying. I just don't know if she's okay. I don't know why she went into that field. I'm really worried about her. It doesn't feel, right to her. So,
Yeah.
I know we really have concern for our children is what I'm saying. I know that. I know we love our children. I'm not trying to take that away. But I don't know that we get to know that. It's like they say when you have a child, it's like growing a separate heart. It's walking outside of us in another body. And, you know, most of us want to control our children. We just want to be comfortable with what they're doing.
Yeah. And mostly for outside appearances and judgment.
Yeah, yeah. And just so we don't have to grow. I don't want to have to stretch into this.
Hmm.
But everything is okay, truly okay. Everything is okay, truly okay. And death never comes. Life is eternal. The less and less and less you and I live ego oriented, and the more we lean in, surrender into, we can call it the I am that I am, true nature, love, the less attached we are, and the more connected we are, even to past ones who have even to loved ones who have passed. It's like they're never really gone. They're just like there's like loved ones for you, Gretchen, right now, but they're not right here, but they're like in another room maybe, or in another house or in another state. It's kind of like that. They're just you can feel them. They still are. They're just not visible in the way they used to be. But no one can ever leave us
Mm,
in truth, in reality.
beautiful. There are a couple people that are asking how to pray, and maybe you can take us through a
Yeah.
prayer. But before that, I want to read what Sarah wrote. Sarah wrote, "Do you believe prayer can heal a health issue, or does prayer just help us deal with the health issue? For example, God is supporting us through it, but won't intervene in what is already going to happen."
That is really, Sarah, the $64 million question. I mean, that is. I believe absolutely through prayer, physical conditions can be healed. I believe prayer is healing. Absolutely. I've seen it happen. I've participated in it happened. I believe deeply in that. I worked at the Agape Spiritual Center, International Spiritual Center. I served in one of their ministries is called One from the Heart, led by an amazing mystic named Reverend Coco Stewart. And we would do hospital visitations, and we had a lot of volunteers. I mean, at one point, upwards of 200, and LA is huge. So, visiting people and such, and doing all the memorial service of people who've passed, so a lot of death and dying and a lot of healing happening, you know. So, which is it? What does prayer do? And I remember in prayers with Coco, and this is when I awakened to this. It would be like when we were praying for a surgery, it was like feeling a vibrational frequency like music. And it felt like the songs of angels, like angelic realm, I would call it, for lack of a better way of saying it. And then it would be like just holding that space for that, and then feeling that in the instruments the surgeon uses, the technicians, the nurses, even the gurney that the person is on, the pillow, the hospital bedding, and you would just feel it would all turn into music. It would just all be that. And then as we're praying for that, you couldn't feel anything, but it was a successful surgery. Like it was beyond success. And we had reports and reports and reports of that occurring. Now, occasionally someone doesn't make it in that traditional sense of healing. And I do believe that everyone dies on time. And so sometimes the healing is the release of the body temple into the greater yet to be. And of course, we have a lot of attachment to healing in the sense of that disease is cured, it's done and finished. But sometimes it's time to move into a greater expression of life. So I think it's an and both to your question. And yet it's always healing. Healing is always happening. Whether it appears someone died from a condition that didn't get better or not.
Mm,
Uh, I'm very deeply interested in the healing power of prayer. There's a very good book by Larry Dossey, Healing Words, and he was a physician. And he became very interested in patients who prayed or asked for prayer. And they didn't have any courses like that in medical school at the time. Interestingly, now they do.
oh,
And
wow.
he claimed that if prayer were studied by the FDA for its effectiveness, it would be considered a miracle drug
Wow.
based on what he saw.
Wow.
But just like a miracle drug that someone might take, it affects everyone very differently, you know? So no matter how amazing prayer is and effective it is, it somehow doesn't allow us to live in self-righteousness. Like, well, I prayed, so my way is the way. It somehow, some way, it always requires, like I said earlier, a letting go. a releasing into a higher possibility with a willingness to step into that, not knowing exactly what that will be. I had this occur for me around when I was studying my profession that I'm in now 30 years ago. I really had very, very, very little money. At the end of the month, I might have $3.50 left in my account. And I became really terrified of becoming homeless, not having a place to live. And I would convince myself that would never happen to me. I'm college educated. If I don't make it in this, what feels like my calling, I'll just get another job. Someone will hire me somewhere. And then I'd feel okay, I'd feel better. I'd feel better. I talked myself out of that. But then that week that I thought that, I read about a person who was a former mayor, highly educated, but was homeless. I was like, oh my
Wow.
God, maybe education isn't da 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 da. And I kept convincing myself this is an irrational fear. And I remember one time, and this is when it really shifted for me. And I'm just being really super honest with you all. I thought, and I was much, much younger then and all that, but I got so many compliments then on my eyes. I have blue eyes. I don't know if y'all can see. I'm looking blue. But I thought, with my blue eyes, if worse comes to worse, I could always attract some man who would take me in because he liked my blue eyes. Like, I won't end up homeless because of my blue eyes. Vanity, pure vanity. And I kid you not, I'll never forget that week. I saw three different women with blue eyes that were way more glistening and gorgeous than mine, and they were homeless. It was like there was no defense against this fear. And it was shortly after that I was awoken at 3:30 a.m. in sheer terror. And I just said, yes, 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 I will be homeless if it's where I'm called. I will live on the streets. If that is where I'm called, I will give it up. And then I had this seeing that if I were homeless, I wouldn't be laying in my own urine in this way I feared it would be, or I don't know what my most terrible vision of it was. I would be like the peace pilgrim. I'd have a toothbrush in my pocket. I'd be walking from town to town. I'd be fine. I just saw I'd be fine homeless. And I kid you not, after that, I never wanted for money. Money flowed. I never became homeless. I always had housing, but I had to surrender. I
Mm.
had to release resistance even to that. Even though I thought, well, I'm not an addict. I've got an education. No, I had that level of let go for me to enter into grace. And I'm still letting go. I wish that was the last time it was hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah. So shall I go into how to pray?
Yeah, for sure.
So I really, one of my favorite, most simple prayers is help. Just help. Like, if you could say help sincerely, help with just even a modicum of willingness to let go, help. Just if you could say help with maybe I don't have every answer. Maybe I don't even know what's best for me or best for my loved ones. Maybe I don't even know exactly what I need. I know I need money. I know I need money. Like, maybe I don't even, maybe I do or don't. Like, if you could just like enter into that kind of humility a little bit and just say, help, help, help. From that consciousness, help is an incredible prayer. And if
Mm.
you see, I've got my hands right here. It helps me to put my hand on my heart. And what I love about this prayer, if we could just say help with some kind of openness that we're more than we think we are. We're more than we think we are. It can really instigate a movement of the grace that you already are, that you already have. I often say to people, I feel like teaching prayer. I've got all these people in my classes, and they've all got millions of dollars in the bank, but they never go to the ATM machine. They
Mm.
never go. You know? And so that help prayer is like unlocking some of that grace that you already are, that shifts and changes the the perception of the movie on the screen.
Mm.
So that's one way. So that's like the easiest, fastest way. Um, just be open, you know. Number two, I teach a prayer that I like a lot. That is, I call it the fetal position prayer. And it's in bed when you wake up. You don't even have to sit up. And you know how if you don't have to be in the fetal position for this, but I'm like, my knees are curled up toward my stomach and my hands, I put them in prayer position, but they don't have to be here. And before I'm even conscious, I say a prayer around being held. Because there's a few essential movements of prayer. And the first one is being held. And I lay there and I say words to myself silently. You don't have to say them out loud, but I am willing to realize I am held by a power greater than my own thinking. And I will feel how like the mattress is holding me, the floor is holding me, the earth is holding me, and I'll get into a felt sense of being held. Because it's very, very powerful to get anchored there in being held.
Mm.
And then the second movement of prayer is around what I've been talking about so much in this call is I let go to this that's holding me. I let my child go to this that is holding me. If it's holding me, it's holding him, her, them. And then from there, we open to what is available from being held, letting go, opening.
Mm.
What's occurring for you, Gretchen, right now as you're
I,
listening?
I have just an insane amount of peace and calm. Your voice, and somebody, a couple people said about your voice, but just the way that you say that, and also just the letting go, I think is just really, and I mean, lots of people say let go, right? But it was the way that you said it, the like it just really, especially with that verse in the Bible, like it's like, wow. Like there's a lot of power in that word that I've never paid attention to.
Yeah. And so many of us have internalized a kind of patriarchal way of living, which is
Yes.
very linear, linear, linear. You hold on, you go, 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 go. And, the energy of prayer is so feminine and
Mm.
so powerful. And in the circular nature of miracles unfolding, I love that you called that, Gretchen. Like if
Mm.
you call it some visceral sense of the power of let, that's what the world doesn't want us to even realize that's when I say the world, I mean the concretized egoic structures
Yes.
want us to think, oh, that's passive. Let somebody go in front of you in the traffic. Don't do that. Beep, beep. My turn. You know, you're passive if you're letting, but it's so much more than we think it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Let.
Power word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big time. I
Mm-hmm.
love good stuff. So I would love to start talking with a few callers if you're okay with that.
Please, yes, I'm excited. Would love
Okay.
to.
First up is Kathy. Kathy, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Hi, Kathy.
Hello. Oh,
Hello.
maybe I need to turn this up a little.
You're
Um,
perfect.
We can hear you well. Can you hear us?
yeah, okay.
Oh, good. You're on with Angela.
Okay. And I'm not quite sure how this works?
You're fine. If you have a question or,
Or a prayer request, even
Yep.
anything.
Well, I just feel like I work on myself in different ways. And sometimes I guess I just feel like I should be further along at this stage. And um, I don't know. um, and I don't know what would be helpful um, to, I don't know. I guess I always feel like I should be doing something else. I have a hard time with being. Does that make sense?
Totally. I totally get it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so, that's what so many of us have done, Kathy. We get interested in the nature of reality, in who we really are, what we really are. We get excited about living consciously, creating from uh, a universe that is friendly and available. And then, we turn it into work. We even, we call it inner work. And then we do what you do, which is we judge ourselves. I'm not enough. I should be further along. Now, you didn't say I'm not enough, but when you say I should be further along, it's like, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. If I were, I should have this, I should have that. So, you know, it feels like the prayer that wants to be said for you is a prayer about enoughness. Enoughness. And enoughness, which I know is not an actual word, but enoughness. When I say enoughness, I'm talking, what is the nature of enough? Enough. Enough. I am enough. You are enough. Like, what would you say, Kathy, if I said you have no idea how far along you are? Like, your ego is in no position to judge that. Like, could you let go of ranking yourself as not there yet? And if you did or could, how do you think that might feel?
Maybe like a sense of relief and peace.
Right. Relief and peace. So you're doing great, Kathy. You're doing great. Like, that's exactly it. We don't know how far along we are. There's no way to know. What I do know is that you are whole, that you are complete, and that you are perfect exactly as you are. Now, the mind doesn't tell us that. The mind says, well, we've got to lose this weight, or we've got to get more money, or we need better friends, a better job. Oh, we need, it's the ego thrives on suffering. And the ego's job is to create problems for you,
Mm.
because the more problems you have, the more you'll suffer. But reality is, you may have not, like, what is a problem? Like what if there's no problem? As I said before, we're in Earth School, we face challenges. That's part of how consciousness as you, love as you expands. But you're exactly where you need to be, who you are. And it'd be very interesting to be curious about that peace and relief. Like, imagine that peace and relief would be extended and extended for you. Now imagine that relief extended, that peace extended. What would life be like with extended peace and relief?
Mm. I don't know. There wouldn't be some form of stress. And I don't know. I guess maybe is it a shift in perception to a degree?
Well, well, I think you're, again, right on. The stress releases. For you, it would be I'm going to cough just a minute. I muted myself for that. For you, it would be like dropping into exactly what you said, being. You said, I think I have a trouble with being. So ego is saying, you don't have to be, you have to do. But being is incredible. Being, and when I say being, it's a state of like, I don't have to do anything. And yet it is doing you. It is doing me. Like right now, you and I are talking, Kathy. You know, I don't even know what I'm going to say to you, right? But
Mm.
I listen, and whatever I am, in the deep I am that I am, it's responding to you. You raised your hand, and you weren't even sure what you were going to say, but you found yourself talking, didn't you? Like,
Yeah.
like we talk about letting go on this call. What we're talking about in your prayer request is living in the let go. And it's amazing how it's like when you live in the let go, it's like there's these simple instructions. You look over at the sink, there's dirty dishes. You find yourself going and doing that. You feel tired, you take a nap, you have an appointment, you find yourself getting dressed. It's like things don't have to be a problem for life to be lived. Now, from this state of real relief and real peace, as you so beautifully described, what I want to say is what actually starts to begin to happen. I don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to, but I'm going to say, but kind of for lack of a better word, because this, for lack of a better word, it happens after you drop into being. You have to land there a bit where you're not afraid to be still. You're not afraid to let it do you. It is a release of the illusion of control. Well, when you drop into that, what occurs is creativity. Just a lot of creativity happens. It's like
Mm.
creativity. The nature of the universe and the nature of you is creative. So it's whether it's in the way you arrange flowers or the way you put your clean clothes back in the drawer or the way you talk to a friend or the way you paint a painting. It all becomes very creative. And I don't mean like fine arts. It doesn't mean you have to become an artist, but it all is creative and it's delicious. But I'm blind to this to the degree I'm captivated by my fear-based thinking. And I can't go there. But once I drop into that peace and relief, it's quite trustworthy. So I'd like to do a prayer for you around this. Would you like that? Or how do you feel about that, Kathy?
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. And I want to say to everyone listening and watching, you are a prayer itself and a prayer. So you're going to find that you know how to pray for Kathy with me more than you may realize. So just listen to my words and see how it feels to pray for Kathy. So let us turn within. Now, you can shut your eyes or not. I lately sometimes pray open eyed, sometimes I shut. I think I'm going to shut my eyes now, but you don't have to shut your eyes when you pray, okay?
Okay.
But I'm going to do it right now, shutting my eyes and placing my attention upon Kathy. I invite you to place your attention upon Kathy. And Kathy, I invite you to receive prayerful attention. Prayerful attention is like non judgmental, it's patient, it's compassionate, loving attention.
Okay.
So you're just allowing yourself to be seen, allowing yourself to be heard. And as I place my attention on you, I affirm that God is at the very center of your life, that God is at the very circumference of your life. So for those who have issue with the word God, we could say love, beauty is at the center of Kathy's life. Love, beauty is at the circumference of her life. Abundance, peace, relief is at the center and circumference of her life. There's no spot where this divine energy is not within and all around Kathy. Her thinking can say, oh, it's missing here, it's missing there. But that's only a thought. Ha 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 ha. Just a thought. It's not true. So we're allowing those thoughts to be absorbed into the prayer field, into the unified field of loving awareness. We're allowing those thoughts of separation that would cause suffering to be laid down at the altar of the Holy Spirit that I am, that Kathy is, that you are. Right here is the Holy Spirit. I am not just a suffering ego, I'm a Holy Spirit. Gretchen is a Holy Spirit. Kathy is a Holy Spirit. We lay those thoughts down, those precious thoughts. We don't judge them. They're just like these lost children. I'm not enough. I should be further along. Oh, precious sweet one, we lay it down. Those thoughts, they don't want to be believed. They want to rest in the heart of the divine that Kathy is, that I am, that Gretchen is, that you are. We lay it down and open to Kathy's natural state, which is relief. Every stressful thought is false. Only relief is real. Peace is real. So I claim something magnificent is happening as I am witnessing Kathy in peace, witnessing her in relief, interested and willing and witnessing her opening to her true nature. I claim for Kathy a willingness to open to being, releasing the imprisonment of do. And as we repeat that word do, it's do, like all that doing, laying it down, trusting the activity of being, the activity of true divine stillness. It moves Kathy now, not the not enoughness, but the enoughness. I claim and declare Kathy's cup is full and overflowing, full and overflowing. I bless Kathy in non-judgmental, loving relief, peace, openness to the creativity that she already is, that God is as her, that love, beauty is as her. I feel the completeness of this word. I release it to its fulfillment. The word made flesh and delivered utterly to the prayer field. I let it be, and so it is. Amen, amen, amen.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How are you feeling, Kathy?
Thank you, Gretchen.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
I feel very, very just calm, and
Mhm.
just like it was kind of like soothing and just hoping to get, that I can get in that state, uh, more often than not.
Now,
Mhm.
what I invite you into, and this is important after you've been prayed for, because already you're going to future. Well, will I be able to get it again? When's it going to wear off? That's just again a thought. I want to see if you can feel, Kathy, right now that you are a clean slate.
Yes, I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, just rest in that. That's
Okay.
the beingness.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Good
so
job.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's when you went through that and with Kathy's response on how she was feeling afterwards, it's almost like a detox, right? Like like our default is always like our default is always to go into that future, but then also being in the peace and being in that place leads me to feel like, is it enough? Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes,
Like,
yes. So I would love to speak to that. First of all, I love that you called it like a detox. It's exactly what it is. And I've never heard anybody say that before, Gretchen. I really love that. I define prayer so many different ways, and I'm going to be quoting you and using that because the stressful thoughts are toxic. We know this in science now with neuroscience and other things. We know that our stressful thinking affects our immune system, our endocrine system, our nervous system. And with those systems and other systems, but with those particular systems affected by stress, you can imagine it kind of it weakens us, right? So when prayer enters in, it is like a detox. It is, and it clears the stressful thinking to allow what is to arise, your true nature, the peace, the relief. Now, of course, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. And then you think, and this is ego, but would that be enough? Now, I need this stress. I need this pressure. I need this worry. I need this struggle. I need this suffering, or I'm not going to do anything.
Mhm.
And that is the adventure that people interested in this radical, new, alive way of praying are willing to take.
Mm.
Now, I can share my experience, but I'd love you to take the journey, right? My experience is, you know, cowza, wowza, wowza, wowza. Is it ever enough?
Mhm.
When I get my bloated nothingness out of the way, as Ralph Waldo Emerson says, get my bloated nothingness out of the way, all my thinking that I think is so important turns out to be my bloated nothingness. And when I become a clearing, as I was saying for Kathy, a clean slate, an idea pops in my head,
Mhm.
a phone call that occurs and someone offers something when I thought something was going to take 72 hours. Oh, it was already done. Like miracles unfold. And when I would say, well, a miracle didn't unfold, the miracle is how I bring myself to the challenge. I see a lot of times too, prayers like, when you're in the airport and you're riding those, they're like the walkabouts that it's like an escalator, but it walks you. That's how it feels to me. Living prayerfully, I feel like I'm being walked. I'm still walking, but I'm being walked. I am supported. It's support. And that's why I'm on fire and have been for 30 years now about delivering a message about prayer to the world, because I don't want anybody to live without this support, without this capacity to detox. You know, you think about how important your kidneys are and the detoxification that's occurring for any of us who have working kidneys right now, right? This is a detox of the mental realm. It's been said that every problem is mental and every solution is spiritual. So it clears that. Now, to the degree that I'm not fully awake and aware and alive to the God I am presence, I need prayer because I need that detox, because I will get caught in my stressful thinking. So I need to deliver it to the prayer field. But as you get clearer and clearer and clearer, you know, at first it's like the prayers prayed me. And then it's like, I prayed the prayers. Then the prayers pray you. And then there's a deliciousness of just you are a prayer. It's amazing how well life functions when we don't interfere with fear. Interfere, fear.
Yeah. So what about the emotions though? Like, do you feel them? Like, is it being delusional, thinking that they're not there? Like, because I'm always a shover of, the sad. I know somebody had the sad earlier, or the anger, or those kind of things.
Exactly. Great. Awesome follow-up question. When I started in my exploration of prayer, I really thought I have found the ticket to not having to feel
Yes.
the very, uh, we call them negative emotions, but the emotions that, my terror, my fear, my shame, my rage, anger was really, really tough for me and still can be. you know, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to have to feel, I found the shortcut in life. Well, guess what? The answer is no. When you enter into this prayerfulness the way I'm describing it, what releases is resistance to emotion. And
Mm.
stunningly, the sadness, the terror, the fear, the anger, the resentments, they're not a problem and they pass, but they do need to be felt. I heard someone say once, a spiritual teacher of Great Awakening, he was asked, what do you think is the cause? If you could say one thing is the cause of all the, disturbance in the world, personal or planetary, what would you say it is? And he replied, and this really resonated with me. He replied, repressed emotions.
Wow.
Repressed emotions. And all trauma is
Mhm.
these emotions we have about something that occurred that we shoved down rather than felt in the moment. So I had the very, very, very difficult task of realizing how wrong I was. I didn't get to repress my emotions. And I had to love all the unlovable, everything I deemed unlovable in myself. I'm still, whatever I deem unlovable, I'm offering it up to the prayer field. And, it's healing the resistance to the emotion. The emotions, there's a lot of different ways of viewing emotions. Some people believe we experience the emotions of our ancestors, that in our DNA we carry trauma from other generations. There are teachers today that say the only thing that's occurring at this point on planet Earth is recycled trauma. No
Mm.
new traumas are even occurring anymore. And we are living in a time in which it's time to resolve those traumas by feeling the emotion and allowing it to pass. In that way, it's very hard to realize that the emotions don't threaten us.
Mhm.
It's kind of like a little child. I saw this little YouTube video of a little kid afraid to jump in a pool, into his father's arms. And finally he did. But it's kind of like we're afraid to jump. But once we do, we're caught. It's not so bad. And it passes. Pema Chodron, an extraordinary Buddhist nun, says, according to her understanding of neuroscience, that if we were fully free of resistance to emotion, that an emotion circulates and completes within 90 seconds.
Wow.
But because we think thoughts about that, it can continue for decades. One client I had years and years ago, she was coming to me with tremendous pain and agony over a breakup with a boyfriend. And listening to the freshness of it all, you know, it, it instigated me to ask, well, when did the breakup happen? And I was thinking, according to the freshness that she was feeling this, like this must have happened, within months or a year tops, 22 years ago.
Oh my.
22 years ago. That's how much we can hang
Hold on.
on to the story and the resistance, and it shouldn't have happened. We can keep it alive.
Mm.
So, dear God, I mean, this is a prayer for all of us, I am, you are, we are. May we be open to releasing our resistance to emotion. And most of us, can't tell the difference between the emotion and the resistance. It's like so locked in together. But if
Mhm.
like this is the resistance and this is the emotion, it like keeps it going. But we
Yeah.
release the resistance like dominoes.
Huh.
They can fall.
Interesting. Love that. Oh, I love this. Kathy says, "Oh, what if we consider our thoughts as things written on a car windshield, and prayer is like letting the rain rinse them off and having a clean windshield again?"
Oh,
I like that.
I love that. I need all of you with these metaphors and analogies because we're entering into a new day for prayer. You know
Yeah.
how people practice yoga or meditation from all different walks of life? Prayer needs to be emancipated from that old thinking, and an analogy or a metaphor like that really helps.
Yeah, that's
That's
awesome.
beautiful.
Love it. So I would love to talk about the prayer field, and then we can take one more caller after that. But I'm going to share my screen here so you guys can all take a look at this. Let me see. Oh, I'm going to put the link up first so you have it. All right. lifereawakened.com/Angela24. So you guys can take a look at that, or you can follow me on the screen. This incredible program, the prayer field that Angela put together for us. So you guys can take a look at all of this, see how it resonates with you. There's some stories of people that have worked with Angela in here, more about Angela that you can read. And so I want to get to first of all, there is a bonus this week for when you join, and it's called 7 Transformational Prayers. Angela, if you can share a little bit about what that is, and you guys have till Sunday to re-listen to this and see if this is right for you. But this bonus is included.
This is a real, I consider this to be a deeply inspired, deeply channeled, deeply amazing offering. I was given and downloaded 7 transformational prayers, and they're short. I speak a little bit about them, and then I do the prayer. And you could listen to one each day of the week and allow the prayers to have their way with you. It's kind of like a marinade, when we marinate vegetables or something, and how the marinade works into the vegetable and it changes the flavor of the vegetable. That's how these transformational prayers work. You marinate in them. And I'll just give you an example of one of them, which may surprise you. So one of the transformational prayers is a prayer about the quality of consciousness of newness.
Mm.
So we don't think to pray for a sense of newness, right? This is Monday. I know Mondays go blah, blah, blah. I do this on Mondays. And we often don't think of, like, I remember Deepak Chopra saying, it's true that thoughts create our life, but the problem is 99% of the thoughts yesterday that we think today, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So to open to newness, Thich Nhat Hanh said, I awaken and I smile. He's he was a beautiful monk from Vietnam. He said, I awaken and I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me.
Mm.
So just imagine if you and I let today be brand new hours. So that's one of the transformational prayers where I pray for our awakening to the newness. And when you awaken to newness, guess what? You realize possibilities that you didn't see before. It's amazing. It's amazing. So that's an example of what you are offered in this.
Okay, so that's the bonus. And then the program is it's a live, 4 live 90-minute group immersions with Angela. So tell us a little bit what's going to happen in this 4-week journey with you.
In this, we're doing amazing in this call, and I do feel like we're dropping into some deep awarenesses, and I'm deeply grateful for that. In this 4-week 90-minute immersion, I am going to give you a download of the most important perspectives and portals into prayer that has taken me 30 years to gather. I'm going to point to how to enter into the grace and the mercy that you already are. I'm going to provide you with a toolbox of prayer methodologies, kind of like your you're a handy man or woman and you got your toolkit, and sometimes you need a wrench and sometimes you need the screwdriver. Because different kinds of praying for different things really helps.
Huh.
And so I want you to have tools, just like if you're into essential oils, right? You might use eucalyptus if you're trying to wake up a bit. If you're moving through grief, maybe you use rose. There's different prayers for different situations you find yourself in. And I want to have you have a curated prayer practice that is for you, so that at the end of this 4 weeks, you are ready to go. You are equipped to make your passage into the prayer field. Like, how to get those windshield wipers working to clear the space for heaven on earth. That's
Mm.
what we're really talking about here, is how to live heaven on earth. So it's going to be very concentrated, very deep. You mentioned one of my courses. I have 29,000 people in it. That's now 37,000.
Oh.
People are ready for this. And I'm going to give you all that is in that course and more, and really bring us into the mysticism of the prayer practice. Also, this is just for you. I'm doing this just for you. I'm not bringing any of my other students into this. I want to know you personally. I want to get to know you. The way this is live, this is me and you. I get to hear about your story, your blocks, your hindrances, your obstructions, your struggles. And I cater prayer practices to you. In addition, we'll be praying for each other. We're going to be uplifting each other. We're going to be a prayer posse. We're going to have each other's back, and we're going to enter into living via the prayer field.
Love that. And just to clarify, this isn't about like memorizing and reciting prayers, right? The
No,
big difference.
no. I don't want to, many people have wrote prayers they memorized and they have no felt sense of. There's no aliveness in it. This is a live prayer, a live, spontaneous prayer. That being said, some of you listening may have a memorized prayer that does drop you into the prayer field. There are prayers that have been prayed for, you know, 2,500 years. And when you open to the prayer field and the mysticism, those prayers could be a portal for you. So I'm open to that as well. So, and there is something about praying a prayer that maybe monks have prayed. It can almost like drop one into some ancient wisdom. We'll also be doing a prayer detox during this. I like what you said, prayer is a detox, but many of us have to detox because prayer is a trigger word.
Right.
We tried to pray and it didn't work the way we wanted it to. And that word, we associate it with religious trauma. So we've got to detox from the word prayer to get the actual true energy of what's available. To know prayer as your greatest gift, that which existed before religion ever was formed, as I said earlier. I think of true prayer as an instinct, just like you have an instinct to breathe and to eat and to move and to, expel toxins from your body. Prayer is an instinct that many of us have completely lost touch with.
Yeah.
It's crazy to try to live without it.
Love it. All right. So that's the 4 live group calls. Then there is creating a powerful prayer practice.
Yes. So this is, a lot of times we'll hear a yoga practice, a meditation practice. A lot of what we're going to be doing is spontaneous, in the moment prayers that you can do whether you're at the grocery store, whether you're in your car, you're in the shower, you're going to bed, anywhere, everywhere. And there's something very grounding and substantive to have a practice. And this course is about, okay, I do want to devote 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day to sitting in my prayer chair. What's that look like? and I teach an outline for, okay, this is what that could look like for you, how to construct that.
Very cool. All right. And so also right before we started the call, we talked about incorporating some live connection with you right away. And so that is through remind me the name? Mondays. It happens on Mondays.
Yes. So on Mondays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I invite you to um, enter into a time to be with me that is not the class and the immersion and that work, but it is an offering of prayer. And you'll kind of get a sense of what it's like to pray with me and pray for others as well. So it's a powerful, spontaneous uh, kind of, I download really whatever's coming through me about prayer. And then we go about the business of actual praying. So I
Right.
invite you to that.
Awesome. And that's just added, guys. So it's not even on this page yet, but it will be.
Yes.
So anyway, there you go. The prayer field right now, it's $197. I think we have payment plans for that. If not, I'm not sure. I will find out and we will get you a payment plan too as well. Since it really is such an important topic. So there you have it, the prayer field. So thank you for sharing that with us, Angela.
You're so welcome. And I just invite you in this moment to feel what's in your heart, and if you are feeling a yes to prayer, to entering in to this state of your own being, I just invite you to honor that yes. I've so many times not honored the yes in my heart, only to realize later, oh, I could have. And, whenever we honor it, we honor it. The universe gives us many, many do overs, but I have been so grateful I've just been so grateful when I've honored that yes. And if
Mhm.
your yes is there, please join me. I welcome you from the bottom of my heart.
Awesome. I love that. And also, this is something that you take with you for the rest of your life. So once you learn how to do it. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. Do you have time to talk to one more caller?
I do.
All right. Jane, you are up. Jane, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
You can. Welcome.
Hi, Jane.
Hi. I think I'm kind of like the other person. I'm just sort of, I don't know I don't know if it's a question. I don't know if you tune into people. I've been in these thoughts and journaling and meditations about letting go and where to, the balance between, because I go a lot between, the balance between letting go and then not being motivated. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Like if I let go, I'll just be a couch potato.
Well, that my own personality, it kind of almost goes into extremes. It's if I'm, yeah, it's like letting go. It's yeah, it's such a fine line. It's a fine line where, like, if I'm like, okay, then I won't deal with this anymore. There's some part in my psyche's like, well, F it. You know what I mean? Just like I'm not going to do
Right. So
anything
it's
towards
kind of
it.
like, right, like you're saying you have a tendency to check out.
Um, yeah, it's like if I'm not put, how do I explain it? It's so subtle where if you look from the outside and the actions, they all make sense. And they're very logical, and no one really argues that. But then there's something that happens inside of it where it becomes stressful. It's such a fine line of forcing something and, like, a normal, I guess, stress of like, oh, we have this deadline to hit. We need to push to make that happen. Um, and where it builds up, like where it yeah, I
Okay,
can't
this is
explain it.
this is what I'm getting, Jane. I'm
Mhm.
getting that this prayer is about your being seen. You're being connected. You know,
Mhm.
when you first said, I wonder if you tune into people, I felt like that was almost a question like, can you tell me anything about myself? Like, you have any guidance
Yeah.
here? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
direct me. And I certainly relate to that. And it's like, you are precious. You are known. You are like the divine is aware of you, Jane. You are not just in an abyss hanging out. Like, the precision of the divine love that you are, that is awakening as you, is real. And even though the thinking goes, well, we've got this deadline, there's a push to make it happen. Like, when we do projects, there is momentum that brings it into being. And yet, fear is never necessary. And I just sense from you, like, what I want to pray for you is I want to pray for you to be reassured that you're seen, that you're known, that you're remembered. It's almost like like something's got your back. You're guided. You are directed. There are simple instructions within your being. And it's like my prayer for you is your connection. I like what Eckhart Tolle calls it, the deep eye, the deep eye, another word for God. How does that feel? How do you feel as I say those words?
When you say to be seen, I mean connected, it's funny. I'm like, there's something very specific, obviously, I'm referencing right now, where like I'm in a band and there's four of us, and I end up having to take on a lot of the kind of managerial things, which I don't really want to. And and I do, another part of me is like, I'm fine with doing it as long as there's like participation and help. And I feel like I'm always having to chase after everyone for the smallest thing when I'm like, I'm kind of holding the load, right? And I'm like, okay, I just spent 4 hours doing this. Now I just need some help in this department, someone for
Right.
an hour. And I can't get it. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
and it just throws me into a space, and then I'm trying to like back off, and then when it does come out, it's very like frazzled because I'm like stressed out because the time crunch keeps continuing. Like, I'm doing everything with an eye to how long the stuff really takes. And I'm trying to build space out so I don't have to stress. Like, okay, if we get it done by this time, then we have plenty of time, you know what I mean, to do this.
Yes.
But I can't get anyone to participate, even in like, I
Right.
just need someone to try on this t-shirt. Like, I've already done 5 hours of work doing the legwork, and I'm just sort of like, and it feels that thing when you start pushing more than they resist more. You mean? And you're
Right.
just like, how is this happening that I'm, and then it makes me be like, fine, okay, I don't want to take on this stress of pushing it. So then I'll let it go. And then everything is delayed, like nothing happens. You know what I mean? So I'm just
Right.
sitting here between all of that. And to be seen, sure, like I don't think that they don't see that I'm doing a lot of work, but like the connection and just being like, then it takes me back to like, and then so why am I doing this? Like, what is the bigger, like, uh,
Yes. So, what I want to say here is, bands, and God bless your band, bless your band, bless your music, bless your whole bringing this music to the world. I just call forth miracles beyond miracles beyond miracles. Number one, bands, and I've worked with bands as a client, like band members, and a lot of times in bands, um, a lot of family of origin stuff comes up and people take on different roles. And so maybe you've taken on the role of the mother dash father and they're the kids or something like that. And so there would be a lot to investigate in that. And we can put that dynamic into prayer. But what I hear you doing, Jane, is you're going to the other band members to support, which makes sense, right? I'm in the band, you're in the band, I've done this, you do that. What I recommend for you when I talk about being seen and being connected, it's not like being seen by the other band members, being connected to them. I'm talking about being seen by the divine, being heard by the divine. That when you need support, you go to the divine. With God for you, nothing can be against you. And you let the divine within the other band members come forward. You know, the divine is your source and your supply, your only source and your only supply. And it's like hooking up to source energy. And then you let it play out in miraculous ways. But most of us don't do that, right? I think, well, my husband, so he should do this and he should do that and he should fulfill these needs, blah, 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 blah. And he's not doing them, or he is. And I'm measuring and judging whether he's doing it or not. And that's living in the world of the world. And it will always come up short. Now, when I drop into God is I am, the divine is I am, that what I just said, with God for me, nothing can be against me. And I open to the pure generosity of the universe. I change, my world changes, what can happen changes. So that's what I mean when I say seen and connected. Seen and connected with your own true power, your own true nature. Does this make sense at all? Can you vibe in with what I'm sharing?
Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, I've like when we talk about letting go and we practice it all, that's such a big mantra, all that sort of thing. And having had really real experiences in my life where I accidentally moved to another country for 10 years, and especially in the beginning, I learned let go in a whole other, if you will, divine way. And these things did happen. Like there's so much of it is a letting go. What comes to my mind is, so maybe it's in that moment of when, if you would be seen by the divine, and in terms of that letting go, what I was referencing before is like that fine line again of like, okay, I release this, but we have a physical world, it's like moving forward with like if let's just say by this Wednesday I had to have a completed thing, to be turned in, and I do my prayers. And we know things sometimes happen instantly, and sometimes it's a flow, it's happening slowly in this more subtle way over time. So in that moment when I say it's like, to be seen and by the divine, and yet you're still working as a physical being, right? um in those moments, if it's like I'm going to say something really mundane here, but it's like if I genuinely need help with Photoshop because I don't know how to do Photoshop, and it's between today and Wednesday, so I can energetically let go into the divine,
Right.
but there's still a physical deadline happening, and my hands
Right.
are tied.
Yeah, there's actually a lot to unpack in your question here.
Hmm.
And you're perceiving there to be a physical world, a divine world. I need this done in the physical. When you let it go to the divine, you are letting it do you. So it's not like you turn it over and then you go watch TV for 3 days. You submit to your deep I. And it may call every band member and say, look, I need help. It may do exactly what you've done before, but it will happen from a place of release. It happens from a different vibration than I'm the doer doing and they're not doing and they're not helping me or it's not getting done. It's like you're connecting to like an energy of trust. Yes, you're a participant in the prayer unfolding, but not you as an ego, you holding yourself separate. It's happening from like a much more powerful place in you. I feel like the best thing is for me to turn within and just let this prayer wash over you. Let's see what happens, okay?
Okay, thank
How
you.
does that sound? Is that good for you?
Yes, thank you.
I'm actually got my little sound bowl here, and I'm just gonna just I want to do a tone here with you as well. How wonderful it is to know that right where Jane is, the divine is, God is, love beauty is, divine action is, divine outcome is. The movement of God is sufficient unto itself, the movement of grace. I'm declaring and accepting for Jane an ever deeper trust. And it is the trust that with God for her, nothing can be against her. With the divine for her, with God for her, with reality for her, with life for her, nothing can be against her. Not a deadline, not a band member, doing or not doing. I call forth a release of the story that feels so real. Look, I do everything and they barely do anything, or they're certainly not helping me with this stuff. I'm calling forth everything we've talked about in this meeting, in this call today. I'm calling forth a clean slate. I'm naming Jane open to miracles, to grace, to mercy, to allowing things to shift, for things to be done in their own time, in God's time. I claim for Jane no conflict between the deadline and, well, maybe it'll go too slow. Like, everything is in order. Everything is in a divine flow. I call forth a healing for Jane around this of resistance. Resistance to someone's doing or not doing, the way the t-shirt looks or doesn't. I'm claiming for Jane a sense of being seen, connected by a power greater than her own thinking that has her back. Divine support realized is the order of the day. I let it be, and so it is. Amen. 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 Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you feeling, Jane?
Better. Thank you.
Awesome. I think that was a very good topic to bring up. Someone else had asked a similar question, Audrey. So Audrey, I hope that helped with you, and your question as well. So thank you, Jane, for being here. Awesome. It is such an important, I just loved all of that interaction because it's such I think when I was asking earlier, is it enough? It was a similar kind of take on, like,
Yes.
like,
Yes. And it's very tricky to get underneath that question that Jane brings up. If
mhm,
I pray and I trust, will it get done? And it's so subtle, it's so paradoxical because it does you
mm,
rather than you're doing it. When I say it, I mean life, God, love, the prayer field. It's like you become a channel for it to flow. The band becomes a channel for it to flow.
mhm.
And so the more demonstrations that occur, the easier it is to get. I am realizing, though, that I actually do have my next call. So we are ready to pray out. This time flew for me, and I hope it did for you.
It did, and it was such a powerful call. Thank you so much, Angela, for being here and for sharing this with us. And
You're so
uh,
welcome.
guys, thank you for your questions and for being here too. Thank you. Beautiful
And
stuff.
thank you, all of you. I really look forward to having the opportunity to pray and play with you in the prayer field. And I, I'm amazed by the game changer that it is. So I look forward to sharing that with you all even more.
Thank you, Angela, so
Thank
much.
you.
for being here.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.